All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today is a very exciting day because this is my first podcast interview. I'm not sure exactly what we can classify it as, but for those of you that have been following me, I've been on the carnivore diet for 9 months now, although it has been a lot of trial and error. And I've been connecting with a lot of people in the carnivore community, and for the longest time, I've been wanting to start interviewing people because I still consider myself a rookie. There's still a lot that I'm learning and a lot that I don't know. So the guest that I'm bringing on today is actually one of the first 3 people that I found when I started the carnivore diet. So just like anyone else, you're looking on YouTube, you're like binge watching all this content. So I found her profile, and right away, I was already in love with her. Her energy is amazing. So not only was I able to learn a lot from her because of how educational her content is, she shares a lot of tips and tricks on the carnivore diet, a lot of her own personal journey, some mistakes that she made so that we can learn as well. So not only was I able to learn a lot from her about the carnivore diet, but she actually has an insanely inspiring personal story as well outside of that. So I'm super excited to get to talk with her today and to get to share all the knowledge and kind of experience that she has. So without further ado, let's welcome Lillie Kane.
Woohoo! Thank you. That was a great intro. I'm excited to chat with you too.
I'm so excited to speak with you. So I know we were just talking a little bit. I have a lot of questions for you. So let's just get right into it. For those people that don't know you, could you maybe just give a brief explanation, like who is Lillie Kane? How long have you been on the carnivore diet? And this is actually a question or an answer I don't know either. What specifically made you start the carnivore
diet? Okay, brief Lillie Kane 101 is I grew up in San Diego, California. Both my parents met out of their shared addiction for drugs and alcohol. And eventually my dad just stopped coming around. They got a divorce. My mom still kept up with what she was doing. And so eventually, fast forward real quick, by the time I was 16, I ended up moving out of the house just because our household was filled with a lot of police and drugs abuse and verbal and physical abuse. And so by the time I was 16, I moved out and became legally an emancipated minor. And then I ended up going to college in Minnesota, of all places, because I was able to go for free. After I graduated college, I was done freezing my booty off for 4 years in the snow and decided to move to warm Hawaii, which is where I met my fiance. And he is someone who's 9 years older than me. So at that point, when I met him, he had already tried the vegan diet, the fruitarian all fruit diet, the Mediterranean diet, paleo, everything under the sun, and a ketogenic diet. After years of doing a plant-based diet, he actually had a ton of digestive issues and skin issues from all of the years of just pounding his stomach with plants. And so when I met him, he had already done keto and healed his gut. And so he was actually doing more of like a bodybuilder kind of diet where he was doing like lots of chicken, rice, and vegetables, protein bars, protein powders. So very clean kind of diet when I met him, but I was eating my Lillie Kane diet of pizza and burritos and cookie dough and Oreos and all sorts of stuff. So I would be eating these foods in front of him and I would try to give it to him like, hey, do you want alcohol? Do you want my deep fried Oreos, which I just soaked in funfetti and canola oil? And so I couldn't understand why I felt like I needed to have certain foods to feel happy. Like I was like, you're missing out on life. You don't want donuts, or you're going to regret your life for not having chips. And so eventually, by being around him, I was just really inspired that he didn't need to have dessert or have certain foods to feel happy. And so eventually I just started learning from him, like, wait, what's a lectin? Wait, oxalate. Like, you have this and not that. So we would go grocery shopping together and he'd buy the organic bananas. And I was like, haha, that's 10 extra cents. I'm buying regular bananas. Like, so I eventually was getting healthier being around him, and he becoming less healthy being around me because I was still able to sneak in like burrito night, Taco Tuesday. And eventually one day I came home from work and he just looked shocked, like a ghost. And he was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I need to go back to eating a keto diet. Because his gut just got like digestion issues to the max. So I actually never started carnivore or keto or anything because of trying to lose weight or heal mental health or help with an autoimmune condition. I simply just kind of started doing it just because it was easier for us to grocery shop, cook, clean, eat the same meal, and also just by being kind of inspired by him that he didn't really need dessert. And so that's kind of how it started. And the last question you asked was how long I've been eating carnivore, which it's been about almost 3 years, though I would say I don't eat a carnivore diet just because
Yeah.
I will incorporate different foods depending on how I'm feeling. So for the most part, it's a lot of meat, but I don't have any rules on any specific diet that I'm doing. I'm just eating the foods that make me feel the best.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm actually mind blown right now. Honestly, my general assumption was that your husband was eating animal based because of you. I had no, and I'm sure you posted a YouTube video or have talked about this and I just missed it, but that is so cool to me. I had no idea that it was the other way around. That is amazing.
I was
Wow.
thinking of saying I should probably make another video because, like, I made that emancipation video, like it was my first ever YouTube video, and then I remade it because not a lot of people know. And then I feel like it's that time again where I should talk about like how I got into it
Yes.
because it's just been a while.
Yes. No, I think that would definitely be a good one for sure. And also, congratulations. Recently just got married. So, congratulations. How was your wedding and everything?
It was awesome. It was perfect. It was I mean, exactly how I could have ever imagined it.
And Hawaii too. I mean, you can't complain about that. It looked amazing. So congratulations on that.
Thank
So
you.
I want to just get super deep right away, especially about something that you just talked about, which is happiness and food. And this is my number one biggest issue. So I'm going to be a bit selfish with this question, but I think that you're going to be able to help a lot of people with this. So, like I said, I've been on carnivore for 9 months, but I don't even really feel like I can say that because personally, I've never been able to go longer than 30 to 40 days without cheating. It is like just a broken record. And on TikTok recently, I started documenting 100 days of strict carnivore. And I was killing it. I made it to day 38. And then this is really recent. So just last week, some personal things were happening, emotional breakdown, boom, I cheated. And for like 6 days, I just went off the rails, like Indian food, Chinese food, pizza, fries, chips, all the things that we love. And I feel like this is such amazing timing that this kind of happened right before getting to talk to you about this, because I would love to hear any advice you have. And like you said yourself, you used to love all these foods, deep fried Oreos, burritos, pizza, even alcohol, this and that. So how did you work through that mentally, doing that transition and not literally being dependent on food as a crutch for happiness?
That's a great question. So I would say first and foremost to anybody who's looking into changing any kind of diet, whether that be even a vegan diet or a carnivore, like whatever way someone's going to go, I would start by eating the diet that you normally eat. If that's pizza on Fridays and that's soda every day, whatever is that diet that you're currently eating, keep doing it and just do one change. So if that change is I want to have no soda, okay, we're just removing the soda and we have to replace it with something else. So oftentimes people are like, all right, I got to get rid of all these foods, but they forgot to replace it. Even if some people, let's say right now, someone's like, I hardcore binge eat, so I don't need to replace it with more food because I'm already eating enough. Then what else? I would say get a sticky notepad or use your cell phone. And every time you're going to reach to grab that food that you know that is probably not serving you, write down, why did you reach for it? I was bored. Okay, then can I call a friend? Can I do a puzzle? What can I do to satisfy that boredom? I was really hungry. Okay, you need to eat more at your previous meal. I wasn't prepared. I was at a social event. I had no idea there was going to be, okay, well, you need to eat beforehand or you need to bring food with you. I'm stressed. Okay, can we find a way to meditate, pray, give gratitude, and just write down what it is every time you reach for that food? Because then you'll maybe see a pattern. Okay, it's because I'm stressed. Okay, well, how can we lower your stress? Because that's the deeper issue.
Yeah.
And so it would be starting with removing one thing at a time and replacing it with something else. And then each time you do have your slip up, ask why was it? It was a social event. Okay, I need to know. Like every time social events happen, I have to be more prepared. Then the other thing I would say too is don't tell yourself that you're going on a diet. This is just what you want to do.
Yeah.
I want to eat foods that make me feel really good. And so when I reach to eat pizza, I'm like, dang it, it's not very good. And I think that everybody in their life is constantly making decisions, whether they recognize it or not. They're weighing the pros and cons to doing something. Should I invite Lillie on my channel? What's the pro? What's the con? Should I do this thing? What's the pro? What's the con? But we're doing it so fast that we don't realize when I go to grab that pizza, I'm weighing in my head, it's going to taste good. I'm going to fit in socially. It's cheap. It's affordable. All these things. When if we would stop, what are the cons? I'm going to have acne. My stomach's going to hurt. I'm going to have diarrhea. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to all these things. Then you start being like, okay. So I think the biggest thing is people just need to slow down, including myself. I talk really fast. I'm moving constantly. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I think everybody, if they just took time to slow down, ask themselves pros and cons. Okay, well, the pro is today it's actually worth it. It's my birthday. I'm going to make a memory. I'm traveling. I'm whatever the reason is. If it is truly a pro, do it. And give yourself that grace to do it and not say, I cheated. I went off my diet. Because who cares? You're not on any diet. Nobody's watching you. No one's taking, it's only you. It's your diet.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. And I think sometimes we don't even realize the rules and restrictions that literally nobody is placing on us besides ourselves. And that's something I'm like super guilty of. That's a really, really good piece of advice. I appreciate you for that. And that's definitely something I need to implement because it's so easy to let your emotions take you over. And like in that moment, you're super depressed, you're super anxious, you're like, whatever, I don't care, I'm not going to think about it, I'm just going to do it. But like you said, if you could just get yourself just to stop for like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and just be like, okay, last time I did this, I literally had acid reflux, I had acne, I was constipated, my skin was itchy. Like, if you even just say those things out loud, it sounds idiotic.
Or if you tell yourself, another trick is like tell yourself I can have that food in 20 minutes. Because if in 20 minutes you probably already ate something else, or you probably have moved on, and you probably thought about something else differently. So minutes before you have that thing and say, okay, that's fine, I'll have it, but in 20 minutes.
That's really good. That's like the same rule. Like if you're shopping and you want something that's really expensive, you're like, okay, I'm going to wait 24 hours. If I'm still really, really thinking about it, then I'll buy it. It's kind of like the same thing. I like that. So that leads me to my next question, which I assume I already know the answer of, but do you ever allow yourself, I don't even like the word cheat, but do you ever allow yourself to cheat? Or like, when's the last time you had something like pizza, chips, burritos, anything like that?
On my wedding.
Okay.
I had chocolate cake.
Respect.
But prior to that, yeah, I mean, like years. I have never had chips or pizza or any of that stuff in a long time. But yeah, whenever I think it's worth it, so usually never.
Yeah, it's usually never worth
but
it.
But I wouldn't call it cheating. It's just this is what I'm choosing to do.
That's true. Yeah, I think mentally that's a really important thing to do is even just change the way you're talking about it. Like, oh, I cheated last week. I cheated. Like, what are you cheating on?
Right. Well, and if you think about too, some people like you're in the health world now, right? You were like, okay, like this is what's considered healthy. So everybody needs to be doing what we're doing. But really, that's putting our goals on other people. So some people, they want to have cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or they want to drink every weekend, or they want to have candies, and that's fine. That's their life. Their life is not health oriented. Their goal in life is to live they're foodies. They like to have the different flavors of life. So great, do it.
It's true, honestly. And that was a big thing I had to realize. I probably didn't realize this until a couple months ago. So let's say like 7 months into carnivore. I tried to do what so many different people were doing and it never worked. And then I realized, oh, I am my own individual person and my body is not the same as theirs. So I would love for you to touch on that because I know there's so many controversies, I guess, in the carnivore community. Like you need to have your fat higher. You need to have your protein higher. You can have coffee. You can't have coffee. So could you maybe talk a bit about like your own personal journey? Did you have like a long period of trial and error? I know like you have like lemons and limes and like things like that in your diet and like fruit and dairy kind of occasionally. So I would love to hear you kind of talk a bit about that process.
I never heard of the word carnivore when I started carnivore. I didn't watch carnivore videos. I didn't know any of these social media people. I simply was eating keto purposely. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this keto thing. And I purposely told myself, okay, I want to do 30 days of no sugar because I liked having dessert every day, just like everybody else. And so when I made it the 30 days without sugar, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a flipping superhero. I actually can do that. And I felt like I, had a huge chip on my shoulder, like, oh my gosh, I just conquered the inevitable, like the impossible. And so then what ended up happening is my husband, he ended up still eating keto, noticing he was watching Dr. Ken Berry and Baker and Michaela Peterson. I had no idea he was watching any of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so he was hearing about like, maybe the vegetables aren't going well with my digestion. So I had no digestion issues. I can digest vegetables like a pro. I can digest most food like a pro. But anyway, he was saying we were eating like fish and vegetables or meat and vegetables or an avocado, we're doing keto. And he said, I don't think the cauliflower is agreeing with me. So he started to stop having it. And I was like, dang it, I got to eat the cauliflower. And then he stopped. He's like, I think the asparagus is causing me issues. And I was like, well, why am I spending money on asparagus? So eventually I just slowly started having less and less vegetables because he wasn't having them. And then one day I looked down on my plate and avocados were out of season. So I was like, all I got is meat. So I've never been a coffee drinker. I've actually never really liked the taste of chocolate. There's just certain things that people just love that I've just never really been into. So my transition was very, very gradual. It took me probably 6 months to, 9 months. I was never like putting this on the calendar. I'm starting carnivore today. It was just very gradually happening. And then after I made my first ever YouTube video where I shared I only eat these 6 foods because at that time that's what I was doing. And then that's where people started asking questions like, are you allowed to have seasonings? Is it okay to have coffee? Are you allowed to have ketchup? And I was like, what do you whoa,
yeah, I
don't know. So that's kind of how it came about for me. And to be honest, the more I was putting information on social media, at a certain point, I started becoming pretty bitter towards carnivore because I felt like the message was being lost. And to be honest, like 3 years ago when I was doing carnivore and talking about it on social media, it was like, do what works best for you kind of carnivore. And now it's like, no, it's got to be raw. No, it's got to have no dairy. No, it has to have no coffee, no seasonings. You can't look at a plant. And so I feel like it's changed a lot over the years. But after my moment of like bitterness of like, okay, this totally stinks. I had to be like, okay, this is really helping people. So I've evolved ever since then as well that, just keep doing my kind of version. And if people want to stay, they stay. If they don't, peace.
Yeah, seriously. That's amazing. No, and you literally just answered one of the other questions I had, which was how different was the carnivore community online 3 years ago to today? And that's really interesting to me, but also not surprising at all, because I feel like as things get more popular, there's so many more different opinions as well. But I think you're one of like the few people that have such a unique story. Like the fact that you weren't like, okay, I'm starting carnivore because of this, and I'm gonna watch a million YouTube videos a day and follow this person. Like you literally did your own journey, and I think that's a testimony to so much of your personal success because you were only really focused on yourself, right? Like you weren't really trying to specifically follow what other people were saying, and I think that's cool because I know even someone like me, when I started, I was just watching Ken Berry and Paul Saladino and like all these different people, which are obviously amazing. I love them. But even to transition this into the topic of fruit and honey, I was super strict for a while. And I was like, well, Paul Saladino eats fruit and honey, so I'm just going to send it. I'm going to eat a ton of fruit and honey. So I started incorporating that in, and I had so many issues. And keep in mind, I have Lyme disease, and like I was exposed to mold for like 2 years straight. So I have all these issues that I didn't realize at the time could have been negatively affected by such a high like fructose or like carb intake. So for someone like you, I know you kind of have fruit. I don't know about honey, but you don't have fruit all the time. Is that correct? And what's your general opinion on that whole huge debate?
I don't have honey because I don't like the taste.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you want to ask me about my diet? I'll tell you, my diet is revolved around what tastes good mixed with food. And so, I think a lot of people come to carnivore like, why? There's so many other diets you can eat for weight loss. I'm like, I mean, to be honest, bacon, eggs, and steak are my favorite things. So you should do carnivore, but like,
Yep.
that's not like, there's so many other ways to do it. So,
Yeah.
as far as fruit and honey, my husband has honey, I think in his coffee.
Oh.
And that I will have fruit at this point because I kind of go through different cycles. Sometimes I don't have any at all for months. Sometimes I'll have blueberries. Sometimes I'll just have, one time a week. Right now I'm having it every single day. And that's
Oh, okay.
because I have been having a lot of electrolyte issues. I haven't really talked about this on my channel. But I has been twitching like crazy. Like even while talking to him, like, please don't twitch, please don't
Oh
twitch.
my God, I remember you posted that the other day.
Yeah, so it's gotten like pretty bad this past like month or so. And then like I also felt like I was gonna faint at the gym recently. So
Oh my
I
God.
just kind of know my body too. And so as much as like everybody else is gonna tell me like, oh, you're doing carnivore
Yeah.
wrong, I'm just gonna say, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do the thing that I know is gonna help me, and that's gonna be having some carbohydrates that hydrate the cells. Now, most people, I would say, unfortunately, if we just look statistically, most people are obese or overweight or have blood sugar issues. So if you tell someone, hey, have a piece of fruit, it kind of turns into 5 pieces of fruit, which turns into a piece of cake, which turns into binge eating. So I would say most people should probably just stay away. For myself, I've kind of been a moderator. So people just have to know, are you a moderator or an abstainer? And so I can have a piece of fruit. It does more benefits to me than harm. And it's like my dessert too. So it's like, win-win.
No, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. I'm not a moderator at all. So I'm one of those people where it's like one strawberry turns into like a whole cake. And I'm like, wait, how did I get here? So yeah, it's definitely important to know yourself. In terms of electrolytes, I guess this is kind of a 2-part question. Because I know you're somebody that is consistently in the gym. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in the gym like 5 days a week, lifting weights. And I was laughing because I was watching your Instagram stories the other day and you were talking about cardio and how you I was like, oh my God, we're not going to be friends. No, I'm kidding. But you were a sprinter in high school and college, or just high school?
Both.
Both. Yeah. So you're a sprinter. So you never did any long distance cardio, and you were talking about that. And I'm like the exact opposite. Like I lift weights, but I jumped rope for almost an hour, 5 to 6 days a week, and I just love it for the mental aspect. So in terms of like electrolytes in the gym, because I know there's like a lot of people in carnivore that don't work out. Maybe they're like too sick to, or just maybe for personal preference, they don't want to. Have you found a difference in terms of like your performance or just how you're feeling in the gym, strictly based off whether you're having carbs or not? Because I know you're generally not in ketosis. Is that correct? You usually have like 50 to 60 grams of carbs per day.
Yep. And I've been increasing my milk intake too as another way for me to get in more carbs. And I just think milk is like a superfood and it's awesome.
Yes.
And I find like to also add on to the fruit thing, like unfortunately, like where I live, we just don't have access to a ton of fresh fruit. And so like we go to the store and we're like trying to get flippin' fruit and it's bruised and moldy and rotten. And like you can see inside, like we bought bananas that are like black on the inside. People probably don't see it because I didn't really ever recognize it before until my husband started pointing it out. And he's like, you see here, look at the bottom of the apple. So anyway.
Oh.
I think like milk for us is raw milk is just an easier carb for us because we know it's going to be better quality and like more nutrients. I'm not eating fruit out of like, I need to get more vitamins and minerals, yes, but not for like nutrition purposes, more so as like taste and like variety and minerals.
Yeah.
And so I have noticed when I did strict carnivore that my lifts can be equally fine. And then, it's mostly just lately, I would say eat something before you work out because I did fasted workouts for years and never had an issue with it. But then it eventually caught up to me. And now we have that milk before we go to the gym and after we go to the gym. And that has been helping so much.
Wow.
Where I feel like in the gym, like,
yeah, like just making it through. Wow, that's cool. Awesome. I mean, honestly, raw milk is probably like the best pre-workout you could have. Raw milk is amazing. So I live in Canada. I know it's illegal in most states in the US as well. I have family in the States, so whenever we go, I usually try and like stock up and like hoard it over the border. But what would you suggest to someone like me, not even in Canada, someone that lives somewhere that literally has no access to raw milk? Are there any other recommendations you have for dairy in general, or would you say don't have it unless you can't get it raw?
Ooh, okay. So in the states, there are many states that are illegal to sell raw milk, my state included. So what you have to do is there's kind of three tiers to the raw milk thing in the US. Some states it's legal, some states it's illegal, but you're allowed to, it's illegal to sell at the grocery stores, but you're allowed to buy it from a local farmer. So that's what my tier
Oh,
here is. I'm not allowed to buy it at the grocery stores, but if you find a local farmer, you may be able to get access to it. Then there's states where it's illegal to sell in the grocery stores and from local farmers, but you can buy it as pet food. So, like in Pennsylvania, when we go home, it's illegal
what?
everywhere, but we go to a local farmer and buy it as pet food, and then they know that everyone's consuming it. So, there's kind of like
Wow.
some loopholes. So, if people are like, in my state, it's illegal, look and check and see if it's illegal just in the grocery stores, and then if there's a local farmer near you. A couple of websites to check out for seeing if you have a local farmer near you. It's called realmilk.com and then eatwild.com. You just add your zip code and it'll populate all the farmers in your area. It might even be really far away. My farmer's like 6-7 hours drive,
Oh,
but he
wow.
does free deliveries all over the state. So we just order online. And then right now my husband's actually picking it up because one day of the week they will deliver it to a spot near you. So there's lots of
Whoa.
opportunity. People just kind of have to look for it. And then as far as should you do pasteurized dairy products in general, I will have pasteurized cheese sometimes just because I'm going to melt it on top of my food. I don't really like raw cheese
Yeah.
very much. So I will melt it on top of my meats. And to me, it's like the same thing. If I were to take it raw and then melt it, it's kind of like pasteurized.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then with other dairy products, I would just say like there's still vitamins and minerals in it. I just wouldn't go into it with like the same thought. They are two different animals. Raw dairy and pasteurized dairy are two different products. So don't be convincing yourself like this is the bee's knees kind of dairy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, so true. Like, if you're just crushing bags of, like, Cracker Barrel, like, marble cheese is probably probably not the best thing for you. But that's really good information. I appreciate that. Well, I know at least where I live, because so we get our meat from a local butcher, and we get our eggs from another farm. So we have, like, two resources for our eggs and our meat. But we've talked to them before about it, and they said, like, they can't like sell it and that they'll get shut down and that it's like they're being watched all the time. And when I found that out, I was just like, how upsetting is it to live in a world where they're strategically trying to keep us away from things that everyone knows is good for you? You know, that's a whole other tangent we could go off on. But that's really good information. I'll make sure after we're done talking, I'll get those websites from you so I can put it in the bio as well. So back to electrolytes. I know this is like a really big thing people recommend when you're first transitioning and you're kind of going through the carb detox and losing a lot of inflammation of fluids and things like that. But you still take them daily, correct? You take the element electrolytes daily. So do you think that also depends on the person? Like, do some people only need it during the transitioning months and some people genuinely feel better like every day?
Yes. So Nisha Berry and I both mostly take, well, except for this past month, mostly we're taking electrolytes at this point for taste. So I know
Oh,
Nisha Berry said
okay.
the same thing. Where like initially we had them because that's what you know to transition, then to not have headaches and fatigue and low energy and muscle cramping and all those things. We were taking electrolytes, but then like the longer you get into it, you may find that you can wean off of it. So I work with clients one-on-one as well. And I had somebody who started by having 6 of them a day. Like he had like 150 pounds to lose. So he was flushing out water and like losing weight
Oh,
really quickly. So he was taking 6 a day and like very gradually noticed, oh, I don't need it as much. So I think people can wean off of it. And then other people like Nisha and I were like, it just tastes good. So we just want to keep having it anyway.
true. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I haven't tried. Well, I'm trying to stay away from like stevia, but I did just get a sample pack of the element electrolytes. I've been using the raw unflavored ones for like 2 months, and I was looking at the sample pack the other day, and I was like, should I try it? I mean, I don't know if it would affect me that much, but that is interesting because that was definitely something I was curious about for you. That's crazy, those 6 packs a day for your one client. That's a lot. So for those that are maybe interested in your coaching, could you maybe give like a brief explanation on that? Like, how exactly do you help people? How long do you typically like work with people?
So everyone's different, right? So some people they're like, "Hey, I just have some quick questions. I've been actually eating this way for a year and I just want to fine tune a couple things. So we just need to meet for like an hour." But basically I do different package calls. So it's all through Zoom where we can FaceTime one-on-one. And I mainly try to give as much free information as possible through my YouTube videos. So no one has to book a call. But it's very hard to obviously be like, all right, eat 2 pounds of meat a day. But I don't know. I had somebody just yesterday who was running 100 miles a week. And I was like, yeah, we need what you're going to do and what somebody else is going to do is going to be very differently. So I have different package calls where people want mainly accountability. I think is a lot of the reason people book is because they're like, if I know I have to meet with Lillie in a month, I'm going to keep doing this. Otherwise it's like you have like the angel and the devil on your shoulder when you're making decisions.
So true.
And then it's kind of all over the place. Some people they're going through a divorce, so they want to talk about going through stress and like managing their day. Other people I've called different places for them to rent because they're living at a home where they don't want to live anymore, so they want to get out of the house. So most of the time it's nutrition based, but sometimes people want to start a YouTube channel or they want to ask different questions just randomly about life. So whatever people want to talk about, I'm kind of just another person for people to bounce ideas off of, who's not a family or a friend and just kind of an outside person who's going to say, Linda,
wow, that's really cool. Honestly, I would have never really thought about any of that, but I think that's so amazing that people feel like open enough to be able to just book a call and be like, hey, can we just talk? Like, I don't want to like a 6-month plan or anything, but maybe you can like help me out with something in my life. Yeah, that's so cool. So do you do that full time or is it like on the side of something else?
My full-time gig is YouTube.
Yes, that's right. That's amazing.
The coaching calls, I mean, I do it every week, but it's mainly, I try to take people's questions that I get in the coaching calls and be like, oh, so that's what people are wondering? Boom, make a YouTube video.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's like a win-win because I can help you out with the content. That's awesome. What would you say if you had to pick 3 things, what would you say are the 3 biggest changes that you've noticed day to day in your life from doing carnivore or animal-based, whatever you want to call it, hyper carnivore?
I would say for myself, one of the biggest things is going to be related around to my menstrual cycle. So I used to have really, really severe bad cramping and clotting and mood swings like crazy where you knew it was coming because she is crying all week long.
Yeah.
And but my cramps were so bad that I would get wheelchaired out of school, or I would have to just not go to school or skip out on work. And that's stinks to like lose out on life because you need to go lay in bed or put your feet up on the wall. So that is one thing that has changed drastically for the better, though in a way it can be a con because I don't know when it's gonna. I mean, I do know it's gonna happen because it's on time, but it's like it's here.
Yeah.
When my sister was getting married, we were walking her down the aisle, and it like happened in front of everybody, and I was like,
no.
We have to stop the wedding, so we literally had to stop it so that way I could go and like. But now my menstrual cycle's on time too because I used to skip a month or skip weeks and I just never really knew what was happening. So my womanly area is better. And then I used to have super bad joint pain in my knees from all the years of hurdling and sprinting. And so to not have that pain anymore, like when I would walk up the stairs or just do certain activities, I was like, okay, I'm going to have knee surgery one day. Like it's just inevitable. And then to realize, no, you don't have to live with that kind of pain. If you just, I think the oxalates mainly for myself, like if I have too many sweet potatoes, I can definitely like feel it in my knees.
Oh, okay.
And then the last thing would be, I would just mainly related to like mood, I guess, because I would just have so many peaks of energy from the sugar and then the crash and need to take a nap. I would take a nap every day and then like lash out in anger or like emotional irritability because of my sugar crash. And so having more of like that stable energy and that peace about myself. Actually, take back. I'm scratching the one you don't want. My actual top 3 is being able to choose for myself which food I'm going to eat. So for example, when I'm going to the grocery store, I would look at the Reese's peanut butter cups on like when you're checking out and I'd be like, Almond Joy, Snickers, but because it was like pretty colors and it's like lighting up my brain. And to now, I remember because I would walk with my husband through the grocery store and I would make it through the whole store, not buying any chips, not buying any cupcakes. But then we get to the checkout aisle and there's the candy bars there. And I asked him one day, I said, do you ever want to have like a candy bar? He's like, I don't even notice it's there. And I was like, no,
Wow.
that's freedom. So now I'm like that. And it's like, I don't walk down the dog food aisle. I don't walk down the other aisles too. 'Cause it's just
Oh,
what I want.
that's good. That's good. Wow. This is such good information. I'm enjoying this a lot. I still have so many more questions for you. Um, so I guess, first of all, I want to comment on the fact of the menstrual cycle, because that was another one of my questions. And a lot of people ask me that too. And this was not something I even knew about or watched any videos on when I started carnivore. And I would literally say after like the first month, I was like, I'm not in pain anymore. It was mind blowing. Just like you said, I used to be like in excruciating pain. Like it was like clockwork. Like the first 2 days, I would always have to call in sick to work. Like I was out of commission. I was in so much pain. The heating pads on me, like just trying to. And the funny thing is, I don't know about you, but during those times, looking back, when I would be in so much pain, what would I do? I would always order fast food. When I was on my period, like fast food was the only thing I wanted. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, no wonder you were in so much pain. You were just like feeding the beast. So that's a big thing that I've noticed. And like you just said, I know when it's gonna come, but like I don't really like know, because it just kind of happens. I don't get any cramps. And I am just finishing my period right now. And this is the first period in 9 months where I've been in so much pain. And that's because it was following the week of me being off carnivore, which I think is like so interesting. So I think that's really important for the women to know, because this is such a big issue. Like when I was in high school, I went on birth control. I didn't even really know like why. I just went on it because my period was so bad, and that caused all these other issues too. And it's like I just can't believe how many different like pills and medications people are put on, but food is almost like never talked about by like any doctor. Do you feel like that's something you're still really frustrated about, or do you feel like more people are kind of like taking more responsibility over themselves and kind of waking up to the reality of how important nutrition is?
That's a great question. And myself too, like I would take Advil like period
Oh
time.
my God. Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think that. I think because of the world that we're in, I'm like everyone's jumping on board. Everyone's
True.
but after like spending time with the family and everything, I'm like, nope, it's not a thing. So I think like I know for myself in my high school and in my college, I took a nutrition course in college and like never learned anything essentially.
Nothing.
And so I think people have the power to look it up online, though of course there's going to be like, oh, you want to get rid of your IBS, eat vegan. Oh, you want to get rid of your IBS, eat carnivore. So I know it's super confusing. But yeah, I mean, I wish more people would just test things, like test vegan, do it for 30 days. How do you feel? Do carnivore 30 days. How do you feel? But it's to get people to do it is a little bit, they have to want it for themselves. And then also see somebody who like legit did it and it is benefiting. Otherwise, if they're just doing it to do it because they have no idea, then they're probably not going to do it in the first place.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this might be a little bit of a difficult question too, but do you genuinely think everyone should and could succeed on carnivore? Or do you think some people actually would thrive on a vegan diet? Some people would thrive on maybe like a higher carb diet. What's your opinion on that? I'm always so curious.
I think people can thrive on any diet you can possibly imagine. I know many, many people to this day alive who are in their 90s, 96, 97, who eat a junk food diet. Now, the statistics of people who are going to make that successful is very few. But I think that sometimes if we put so much pressure on ourselves, like I have to eat this way, I can't look at a cookie, then that the stress ends up becoming worse for your overall health. And I think that also not only food, but other things like sleep, your stress levels, exercise. I think there's so many other factors that can play a role that if you're eating a clean, healthy diet and smoking cigarettes, like you're probably not going to have the same chances. So yeah, for the most part, I know many, many people who are very healthy, who are not on any particular diet and they're thriving.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I think it's so different for everyone. And like even a couple people in my family tried carnivores. I have a big family of four siblings. So my parents kind of tried it for a little bit. My brother tried it, and they just like couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They were like, honestly, like I like the vegetables, right? I like having rice. I like having sweet potatoes, and they were genuinely like so much happier with that in their diet. Because for a long time I was like, And I think maybe subconsciously you just want everyone to be doing what you're doing. Because for a while I was like, oh, I'm on carnivore. Oh, you should be on carnivore too. Why aren't you on carnivore? And you're kind of thinking that way. And then you realize like it's so different for everyone. And it took me a long time to even realize I kind of had a little bit of envy for people that could eat all these foods, you know? And I'm kind of working through that mindset now. And I was watching a video, I'm sure you know Jen, delighted to meet you. She's awesome. And I was watching her video on like mindset with the carnivore diet and how that was the biggest change. And I'm starting to really realize the importance of that, because even with everything you've said, a big point you keep touching on is I'm actually choosing this. Like, I'm not forced to do this. I'm choosing this. I like it. Nobody's shoving a steak in my mouth and I'm like dreaming about other foods. And yeah, so I guess I just wanted to ask, like, do you genuinely think that is the biggest hurdle for people, is like the mental adjustment when kind of, excuse me, committing to this diet or lifestyle?
100%. For sure. You can get like, because like, for example, if we're going to argue that the opposite, like that it's a physical change, not a mental change, and like, let's say someone's having diarrhea. So they're like, no, the hardest part is getting over the diarrhea. Well, mentally, that's because you're struggling with having the diarrhea for the time being or whatever. So definitely, I think like the mindset shift. Like for myself, I did a strict carnivore experiment. Like, don't put a flippin' celery powder in my bacon. Like I would do just to like, you know, see, is it really truly like the little things that are going to make all the difference? And it really did make all the difference. It negatively impacted. Like some people, if they really truly have to go super strict, because it's like, for, you know, Michaela Peterson, she has like a small amount of black pepper. She's going to have her arthritic pain come back, and it's just not good for her. So I think, oh wait, I forgot your question. What's your question?
No, I was just saying the mindset hurdle.
Yeah. So like the mindset for myself, when I did the strict carnivore, it mentally messed me up more than it physically did, because I kept feeling like I was so restricted and limited, and that I was actually following rules. And I flipping hate, you know, rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah.
So I think like if you are mentally at peace, like I'm choosing pizza because this is what I want to do. Okay. I'm choosing steak because this is what I want to do. Great. So I think, yes, the mental shift. Some people who I've spoken with in the past, they had to tell themselves like, I am a carnivore. I'm not on the carnivore diet, because if I say I'm on the carnivore diet, that means it's temporary, or it can be like not a part of me. Whereas for myself, I cannot do that. Like I cannot say I'm carnivore. Nope. I am Lillie Kane, first and foremost. If I want to eat a flipping vegetable, I'll eat a flipping vegetable.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well, that's like the true definition of freedom, though. Like you are, like you said earlier, you're eating the foods that taste good and make you feel good. So it's literally a win-win. And I think that's awesome. And even with me, like coffee, I know you don't like coffee. When you posted the other day that you don't like coffee, chocolate, or cheese, I was like, what? I was like, I'm kind of jealous of her, actually, because my life would be so much easier if I didn't like those three things. So I thought that was hilarious when you posted that. But for me, I've been through like so much with coffee. I've done like a 3-month, 4-month caffeine detox. I went like fully off coffee. And kind of like you just said, it literally just made me sad. It just made me sad. And I was like, why am I depriving myself of this? Like right now, the only things I eat is meat, butter, and coffee with like a little bit of heavy cream. That's it. And like, you know, even posting my journey on TikTok and stuff, people are like, oh, you're a fake carnivore. You're eating coffee. Coffee's a plant. And I'm just like, somebody always has something to say. Even if you were just eating meat, people are going to be like, oh, that's not healthy. You need to add more things. I'm like, I don't know what all you people want. Like, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and what makes me feel good. And I still don't even really know what that is. So I think that's such an important message, because I see so many people that are so overwhelmed when they start, and they're like, oh, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I think, like you said, it could take you up to like 6 to 9 months to kind of figure out exactly what works for you. So what do you think, if you had to pick maybe like 2 or 3 things, are the biggest beginner carnivore mistakes that you see?
I would say under eating for sure.
Okay.
And I get it, myself included. When I first started eating this way, you hear eat until you're comfortably full. And some people like Kelly Hogan did it. Other people, and I would say most people, just because the foods are so protein heavy and nutrient dense and so satiating, they keep you very full, that when you eat your food, you don't track your calories. You don't, that's what everyone says. Don't track, just eat till you're comfortably full. And then inevitably, a lot. I mean, 8 out of 10 people who come to me are under eating. And so
Wow.
in doing so, they're lowering their metabolism. They're going to eventually, in time, start losing their hair, losing their menstrual cycle, feeling cold all of the time, not losing weight, hit that weight loss stall because their body's holding on to the small amount of nutrition that it is receiving, that it's really hard for someone to keep losing weight if they're not in a calorie deficit, if they're under eating. So big mistake would be under eating. And then the next one would be trying to be perfect because we want to make sure can I have coffee? I'm not allowed. What am I, tea? So then when you do that, like it becomes like analysis paralysis. You're hearing so many voices online, and then you kind of get lost in the message. Like the message is just eat nutrient dense, good whole foods. Maybe that for you is a sweet potato once a week or whatever that may be for you. But because you're trying to follow the rules, that you're not going to do that, and then you might actually end up missing out on a key signal, like something's wrong, something's missing, but I'm not allowed to do that thing. I think like trying to be perfect is something that I've struggled with as well too. And nobody's perfect, and it's okay to do your own thing.
No, those are so good. And I actually want to talk a little bit more about the calorie thing. So I guess another like 2-3 part question for you. Do you think it depends? Okay, like let's say, because I was listening to Ken Berry and all these guys too, like just eat until you're full. But where I went wrong is I was like, 5 blocks of cheese? Sure. Yeah. I'm going to keep eating until I'm full. So I guess my first question is, if let's say somebody's having like what I'm doing right now, strictly red meat, butter, maybe coffee, we don't really need to count that, versus somebody that's eating, let's say, red meat, butter, also cheese, milk, and maybe like some fruit or something like that. Do you think there's going to be a big difference between this person eating like 3,000 calories and this person eating 3,000 calories?
I think the butter is more the problem.
Really? Do you really? No.
I have a lot of people come to me and they're like, I'm eating until I'm comfortably stuffed. I'm eating 2.5 sticks of butter and a 1 ounce of chicken. I'm like, where's your protein? So I have a lot of people who they get hung up on the butter thing, and butter has an addictive component to it. Dairy in general has an addictive component. So as much as people say fat doesn't make you fat, because it doesn't, no food makes you fat. Donuts don't make you fat. You just ate too many of them. So with butter, people maybe get lost that, well, fat doesn't make me fat, so I can eat a bunch of it. Well, fat stores easier on your body as fat than carbs do. So your body's going to convert the carbs into fuel faster than it's going to, that fat is going to be just stored faster. So anyway, I would say I find a lot of people who overeat the butter, and it's just easy to put down. It's good.
It's so easy. Yeah, and I know the butter is like a big topic as well. So even for someone like me, I'm only having maybe 3 to 5 tablespoons of butter a day. So I'm not eating like a stick a day. Mm-hmm. But I guess let's talk a little bit about the fat to protein ratio. So when I first started, my protein was higher than my fat, and I was freaking starving, tired. I felt like crap. I was like, let's say I was around maybe like 185, 190 grams of protein and like 100 and 150 grams of fat, which is still a lot compared to obviously the average person, and 0 carbs. And it just was not working for me. And I was like, why do I feel terrible? And then I was actually talking to the people at Carnivore Bar, and we were having like a whole conversation about that. And they were like, you should try and increase your fat. So for the last 3 months, I pretty much completely switched the ratios. Now I'm at anywhere between like 180 to 200 grams of fat a day, but my protein is still always like above 150. So do you think as long as you have a protein that's maybe like a 1 gram to 1 pound of body fat ratio, you think, does that change your mind a bit about like, let's say the butter or like the fat content in general? I hope that question made sense.
Well, I think that the initial question, well, at least as far as I was thinking that your question was initially, was that someone is going to, I think because it started with when people hear eat until you're comfortably stuffed, then if they're eating blocks of cheese, then they're gonna overeat. Yes. Someone overeat still, even if they're eating 190 grams of protein, and then they have that 190 grams. Exactly. It's gonna be, so our bodies will not signal to our brains, stop eating until it's had enough protein. So if I'm eating bags of chips all day long, I'm never going to really truly feel full until my body's had enough protein. So I think if someone is just eating straight chicken, they're probably going to feel full, but then they're also just not going to feel very good because they don't have the full source of fat. So in your case, initially, when you had so much protein and not enough fat, you were super undercaloried. So you were probably not having the fuel that you needed to, because protein's only for every 1 gram of protein, it's 4 calories. And then your fat was like super low. So your fat was going to help bring up your calories and help boost up your energy. So yeah, it's much harder to overeat if you're eating enough calories.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But you do believe that some people do better on a higher fat to protein ratio? You do believe that?
Yes, particularly people who may need a lot of healing with their hormones.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Yeah, I was always curious about the fat to protein thing, but I guess it always comes down to what we keep talking about. It's just different for everyone, and you gotta like play around for it. For me, it helped me feel like more satiated and like less cravings, and I just turned into a freaking monster in the gym. I don't know, it was crazy, and it's like I'm still eating a lot of protein, like 150, 160 grams. It's still a lot, but there's something about the higher fat that worked a lot for me. Let's see. Wow, we actually got through most of my questions. I'm actually pretty impressed. So I guess let's end it off with, I know we kind of talked about like the biggest mistakes with carnivore, but let's say somebody's watching this, they really want to start, they're still feeling overwhelmed even after watching this, and they just want like a couple tips. Like, give me like 1 or 2 most important tips for starting out. Would you still say it's like making sure you're eating enough and kind of the not trying to be perfect thing, or is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would also add that you should pick the foods that you like too. So some people are like, should I have liver? And you're like going to throw up eating livers and probably don't have liver. And then like other people, they may have, if they just go for it and just eat any animal foods, great. But then later they may find, oh, you know what, something's still not working. I think it's the eggs that are bothering me. You may have to go pretty strict for a little bit to really truly pinpoint which foods are causing what issues. And like even for a long time when I first started carnivore, I was having sardines and I was like, heck yeah, I'm eating a healthy food, but they were in olive oil. And now over 80% of olive oils are rancid, and they may even have canola oil in them. So every time I had sardines, I would have diarrhea, and I never understood why. And as soon as I switched to buying sardines and water, no issues. So yeah, you might just like paying attention to ingredients is important, and just eating, at first, everything, all the animal foods, have cheese, have eggs, have everything. And then eventually you might still be like, I still think something's not working. And then remove from there.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Okay, actually, since you brought up organs, let's talk about that really quick before you go. I feel like I can't really remember if I see you post them that much. Do you incorporate them that often or not really?
I have organs every month. Not every week, but I do have them. I really like them. I really like the taste. I think liver tastes awesome. I think heart tastes like steak.
I love heart.
Yeah. So I think like sometimes my body's really craving them, and I do liver every day or every other day. It just doesn't taste as good. It starts to taste like iron. So I just take that as a signal from my body that you've got enough. But sometimes I can just tell like you need some liver, and then I love it.
Yeah, that's so true. My mom used to make liver when we were kids, and I was like, get that away from me. Like the smell, the taste, I was like, this is disgusting. And then about like 6 months after starting carnivore, I started to crave it, and I was like, am I okay? Am I dying? What's going on? And now I actually enjoy the taste, and that just absolutely blows my mind. So is that something you've seen a lot? Like people's palate genuinely changes as they start to eat different foods?
Right. Yes. I mean, you give me some yogurt, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm eating ice cream. But if you would have given me yogurt back in the day, I'd have been like, where's the ice cream? I think like people's sweetness levels change a lot too, or like even people, they start like, oh, ribeyes, that's too fatty, and then eventually body craves the fat.
Yeah, no, that is super cool. Okay, well, I know you have to go. This was amazing. I feel super, super grateful that you came on today. Honestly, I probably could have continued to ask you more questions for another hour, but I appreciate your time. And just for anybody that's watching, where's the best place for people to find you?
Mainly YouTube. I'm Lillie Kane on YouTube, though I'm on Instagram, Lillie Kane, TikTok, Lillie Kane, got a website, email, reach out.
Okay, perfect. I'll put all the details in the description as well. But Lillie, thank you so much. This was amazing, and I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much. You had excellent questions, and you seemed like you were just crushing it for your first time.
Oh my God, thank you. I got the Lillie approval. That's all I needed. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Lillie.
Yeah.
All right, see you later. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was my first interview, my first podcast with anybody, and I feel like Lillie is a perfect person to learn from. So hopefully you guys learned something from that today. Be sure to drop a comment. I'll put all of Lillie's information in the description as well. But as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.